Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted, episode 206, the Good News Edition. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's November 19th, 2015.
Okay, somehow again we find ourselves late at night. It's 5:40. We normally tape in the morning, trying to put together an episode of Anglican Unscripted, and it's just George and I. Quick update: we're still raising money to go to Canterbury. It seems like most of you understand that we're not invited, but we still want to go. So please go to anglicaninc.com/donate. You can click the PayPal button, or you can write a check to send us to wonderful Canterbury, England, where we can have tea with Peter and talk behind the scenes with all the primates. That happens in January, so the sooner we buy the tickets, the cheaper it is. You shouldn't say cheaper. When I was in sales, you always said less expensive, least expensive. So that's the least expensive tickets we'll get. George, how's your week going?
Oh, pretty miserable, Kevin. I was on the mountaintop coming out of Kairos weekend at Sumter Correctional Institute on Sunday evening, and I came back to home life and reality hit me, and bam, it's been one thing after another. Church problems, family problems, money problems. I don't know. Next thing I know, Skylab is going to come crashing out of the heavens into the back of my car.
So it missed you in 1979.
It missed that time around. I think it went down in the Indian Ocean somewhere. But Skylab 2 is going to be is scheduled to strike this week.
Well,
it's just one of the. I mean, Satan will do his best. I know this sounds hokey pokey to some people, but Satan will do his best when you are centered in Christ. When you've come off of a wonderful mission experience, then all the sheep attack you, and all the gnats bite you, and it's just.
Makes you gur. We actually start our vacation tomorrow, 14 hours from now. Looking at my clock, maybe 15 hours. We're going to be leaving the Chaos Condo, heading to LaGuardia Airport and flying to Chicago, grabbing a rental SUV and driving up to Mom and Dad's in Madison, where we're going to
bring the bathing suits and little buckets and shovels for the beach.
I wish, but it's actually a nice little snowstorm to welcome us back to the Midwest, and we're
take shovels.
He got the shovel with a bucket, yes. Actually, I don't know where my Speedo is. Maybe. So we're going back for Thanksgiving to see Mom and Dad. And Jill likes to do what we call the Magical Mystery Tour, where we see every relative and person we went to college with, all within a 10-day period. And so I have to be on my good behavior for 10 days in a row. It's hard.
See, Kevin, that's the difference between you and me. I avoid my relatives on the holidays.
That's good.
Seek them out.
I don't. Jill does. We're actually going to see two different sets of in-laws within a 8-hour period to celebrate two different turkeys being roasted in an oven, which I don't mind so much. We're also going to go to the Green Bay Bear football game up in Lambeau Field, and I get to see them raise the number 4 for Brett Favre in the stadium, who just lost his passing record to Peyton Manning this week, but it happens. Peyton is actually going to work on the interception record next, I hear. Enough about us, George. We've just wasted 3 minutes of our viewers' time. Let's move on to the news. George and I were sitting down for about half an hour trying to discuss what to talk about. We could give you our thoughts on immigration.
Corruption in the Church of India.
Indian corruption.
Latest Dr. Kanunga story from Zimbabwe.
Yep, good stuff.
Latest Archbishop of Canterbury speaking out of both sides of his mouth at the same time.
Yeah. The new presiding Bishop Curry, and some of the scandal at the Executive Council. Where are they holding it this time?
Thinnicum Heights, Maryland, outside of Baltimore.
Okay, so instead of all that, we said, listen, we need a good news episode. Kevin, you're going on vacation. I've had a bad week of attack. Let's do something good. I said, well, why don't we just talk a little bit about the ACNA, because they're kind of a good news story in the Anglican communion right now. And
See, that's the problem. They're not a news story. Good news doesn't sell,
I
Kevin.
know.
I mean, there are no corrupt bishops that I know.
No,
I'm watching one of you, though.
yeah, that's
There are
right.
no
We're
corrupt
watching you.
bishops. There's no, good news doesn't make the press.
No.
And it really should at times, because the Anglican Church in North America is really doing a great job. Foley Beach's first year, I would give him an A+.
Yeah. Well, we just talked a little bit about, let's do a compare and contrast while we start off here. I remember back in New Jersey, I guess in 2008, Steve Waring, who worked for the Living Church at the time, called and said, Kevin, you got to go to an executive council in the Episcopal Church. It's boring, but you get to see the inner workings of how things work and just how they kind of red tape everything to death. And I'm like, well, fine. I'll grab a hotel and come on down. And Steve met me. We had pizza. And then he took me to one of the first meetings inside the executive council. And I don't know what it was for. I don't remember. But I'm sitting in this meeting with Steve, and he's taking copious notes. And they started to argue about where they should put a semicolon in the sentence. And I'm like, well, it's kind of easy, but I'll let you guys work it out. All of a sudden, the chairman of this little group said, we want to go into executive session to discuss this further. And I looked over at Steve, and he just smiled. He's like, this is what I was talking about. This is the corruption, the secrecy, everything's behind closed doors type thing. So Never Ray Fox stood up and marched us out, and we sat waiting in the lobby for them to come to a clearer decision of where to put the semicolon. Some 25 minutes later, we got marched back in. And you could tell there was lots of red faces, and they had not clearly come to a unanimous decision of where the semicolon goes. And I'm like, this is our church? This is it? So it was at that time that I quickly dropped the idea of starting Episcopal TV and changed all my plans to Anglican TV. I thought that was a safer bet. But you've been to executive councils before, George.
Yes, but I haven't bothered going for a number of years now.
Mm-hmm.
The Executive Council and the Episcopal Church Center staff is driven by a culture of secrecy and corruption and fear. It's not a happy place, and they hide information. There's a recent story in the Living Church today about this most recent meeting, where one of the things they had to do, new Executive Council, new triennium, new presiding bishop, just like any parish vestry, they have to approve the housing allowance for certain members of the staff. Well, the finance committee approved the housing allowances, and it was sent to the full committee. And then the information was put up, but it was all blacked out. And they wouldn't tell the executive council what the information was. Now, people complained on the executive, why should we vote for something that we don't know what it is? And the finance committee said, when we turned it in, we didn't black it out. Well, the staff blacked it out because they didn't want people to know. And
that's the executive council I know.
And at the end of the day, they passed it without knowledge on a voice vote saying, if you really wanted to know, here's a super secret way that only you could find out. So the wider Episcopal Church doesn't know what Michael Curry's housing allowance is. Now, at the end of the day, that's not a big deal. But diocese and parish publish this information all the time. Mm-hmm. It's only the National Episcopal Church that I'm aware of that operates on this level of secrecy and mendacity.
Yeah.
And, I read this and I just roll my eyes because this is always the way it's been. I remember I went to an executive council meeting that was held down here in Florida for something, and Frank Griswold was giving some sort of presentation or whatever, and they asked us all to leave, and we left, and I came back. Steve Waring and I came back about 45 minutes later, and essentially it was like where to put the comma. I mean, they were talking, I think they were talking about Brazil or Haiti or something, where there was disagreement among the members of the Executive Council, and they didn't want anybody to know. See, they want to be, it was like the old Soviet Union, where the Presidium and the Politburo are unanimous in all things, and they don't want people to know that they don't agree on everything.
Yeah.
The net result is that it creates such deep cynicism among the people who cover and report upon this that nobody really cares anymore what they have to say.
No, that's true. And this is what the new presiding bishop, Michael Curry, is walking into. Let's hope they don't hide enough secrets that he can't help reform it. But That remains to be seen. Now, we're going to contrast this with the ACNA, in case you haven't watched us before. That's the Anglican Church in North America. And the Anglican Church in North America is very open with their numbers and data when they have it. Now, you and I often ask, can we get data for all your churches? And it's not like they're hiding it. The problem is they don't often have all of the church data. Because some of the dioceses don't turn it in. Some of the churches don't file the reports, and they're honest. So, like, listen, here's everything we got. We think it's about 90% of reporting churches, but we don't have the rest. It's not like they're hiding it, George.
Early on in the ACNA, there were a number of people who were members of their House of Bishops who brought with them the Episcopal Church's cult of secrecy.
That's true.
They wanted to control information. That information was power, and if they could control the information, then they had power. Bob Duncan didn't put up with that. Yeah. And we saw Bob Duncan be very transparent, very open. He meant what he said what he meant. You could ask him a question, he would answer it. And if you didn't get an answer, it's because the answer wasn't known.
Yeah.
The culture of the ACNA is very different from the culture of the Episcopal Church Center. The culture of the ACNA is open, is transparent. They want to be helpful. They've not, maybe I've not been around long enough, but I haven't become jaded yet by the leadership that I've met working with the ACNA.
No, and I think, the synod culture they have works for them. In different provinces around the world, bishops are elected differently. In the Episcopal Church, they're elected differently. And you see this mentality where there's a lot of marketing behind a new bishop. You don't see that so much in the ACNA.
Well, if I were to be all sociological around this,
yes, go for it.
The Episcopal Church, the institution in New York, is dedicated to its survival. Mm-hmm. The ACNA is dedicated to proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ. This is a big difference. Mm-hmm. In other words, the Episcopal Church views itself as an institution, and the primary duty of the institution is to perpetuate itself. You don't get that sort of sense from the ACNA. In other words, they're happy when other people are successful, other denominations, other cultures. They're happy with the good news of Jesus Christ being spread. It's not a threat to them. Whereas you do have that sense that somebody's success is necessarily a failure for the Episcopal Church if it's not the Episcopal Church's success.
Now, it's not like there's not sometimes conflict within the ACNA. You and I were up in Latrobe, Pennsylvania for the, what do you call it, the conclave.
No, it was the Arnold Palmer pilgrimage.
That's right.
Oh, you're right. It also was a conclave.
And we talked to many of the bishops after the conclave, and they said it was very difficult. It was not a go-along to get along, and they had very frank discussions. And in the end, they picked the new Archbishop, Bishop Foley Beach. And a lot of people said it ain't going to work. There's no way Foley Beach can hold these guys together. They're a one-hit wonder. If Duncan's not leading them, kaput, it's all going to fall apart. Foley Beach was able to move the communications office and some other people down to Georgia, and it still hasn't fallen apart, George.
Foley Beach is very different from Bob Duncan, but he complements. I don't want to say perfects because that implies something that's not there, but he takes what Bob Duncan did well and he adds his own particular personality, his own leadership style, and he makes a good institution better. And that's the mark of a successful Archbishop. Foley Beach hasn't put his foot wrong so far that I'm aware of.
Well,
friends, if he has, tell us.
Actually, I do have a couple emails from people saying they're uncomfortable with the friendship they've opened up with the Russian Orthodox Church. And they do defend that, put a good argument to paper. And one day when we have time, we'll sit down and hash out the real Orthodox Church bound in Russia and some of the corruption. But, you know, in the end of the day, if that's his only fault, I don't, see this going bad anytime soon.
The other thing now this is not universal, but one of the things that I'm not a member of the ACNA, I'm a member of the Episcopal Church, and I have attended every ACNA assembly conclave. I've been there from the very beginning. I've reported on it, and only once or twice have I been made to feel unwelcome. And it has been one or two individuals who say to me that, you know, your success in the Episcopal Church, the fact that you have a happy parish, the fact that you're happy in Episcopalian, the fact that your diocese is successful, we, one or two people, think that's terrible. Whereas the vast majority of people I meet in the ACNA are happy for me that God is moving and working in my little corner of the Episcopal Church. That's the difference I see. There are some angry, bitter people who don't want any success except on their terms in their particular way. The mindset of the Episcopal Church is that if you don't do Anglicanism our way in America, you're the enemy. The ACNA is not reciprocating that mindset as an institution. A few people do, but as an institution, they're welcoming, they're supportive. My success, they're happy for in my particular vineyard. And that's the cultural difference that I'm talking about. ACNA is an organization that really isn't afraid to let God lead and let the Spirit move them forward.
Which is probably
and I'm
why
still a member of the Episcopal Church. I'm happy.
All right. So we've just given you 16 minutes of pure good news. I'll be on vacation. I'm going to take my laptop just in case there is pertinent news if we want to record an episode next week. But George, if not, have yourself a wonderful Thanksgiving. You got mom and dad in town. You can do a little turkey, or what's up?
Oh, that's one of the things we're fighting about. Do we go out to dinner? Do we eat at my mother's? Do we eat at our home? Mm-hmm. And I'm voting to go out to the local golf club and pay what it takes so we don't have the fight between who hosts the Thanksgiving dinner.
If it costs you $30 to be thankful, it's worth every penny.
It's Florida. So if we eat before 4:30, it's $9.95.
I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Concord. And you've been watching episode 206 of Anglican Unscripted. So what did you all plan for dinner?
She's going to stop at
Wendy's. Oh, that's no fun.
Oh, we're going to have plenty of fun out on our... plenty of fun where we're going. All right, let's make... All right, let's do some talking. What do you got for me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, I'll crank that up a little for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, I'm gonna go with that then. All right, I can fix it in the mix. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Slick Back the Hair Unscripted. What, got fleet? Oh, yes. Prepping. Let the air out. All right, hold on. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 206. This is the one where we can't talk. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is the, I didn't think about something to say episode. This is the good news episode. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Anglican. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted.